Welcome to the Ash Cloud. I'm Ash Sweeting. Today we are joined by Aimable Uwizeye, Livestock Policy Officer for the Food and Agricultural Organisation of the United Nations, where he leads the Sustainable Livestock Transformation Initiative. Increasingly, the importance of animal health is being identified as a key aspect of improving sustainability and reducing emissions. This is especially so as many countries are rethinking their positions on food sovereignty following the disruptions caused by COVID-19.
Aimable, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Ash. This is nice to meet you again and also to join the podcast.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. So with the sustainable livestock transformation, especially in light of the fact that there's a 20% increase in demand forecast in the next 25 years for animal protein, could you please outline what the sustainable livestock transformation is?
Yeah, this is a very important topic that I think will also shape the future of livestock. So as you know, in 2019, the United Nations Global Sustainable Development Report identified food systems and nutrition patterns as key entry point for transformation pathways to support especially the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. These findings was also confirmed during the United Nations Food System Summit, which took place in 2021, which marked a significant milestones for the global community in accelerating action toward more sustainable, inclusive, equitable, and nutritious agri-food systems. For the livestock sector, it is the right moment to build this momentum and engage transparently with all stakeholders on sustainable transformation of livestock sector, which can be achieved when stakeholders adopt good practices at all levels and of the value chain, from the production, processing, transport, and consumptions. In this regard, science, policy, investment, and other complements should be seen as more means to create an enabling environment toward sustainability. The Sustainable Livestock Transformation Framework will not be a static process. It will be a progressive a framework that will help to accommodate and also to especially accommodate the changes through science and technology, but also the change in practices to ensure the three dimensions of sustainability are achieved. So that means environment and the socio-economic dimensions. The Sustainable Livestock Transformation Framework proposed by FAO is structured around 5 pillars. That's the first one is building science and evidence-based narrative or visions for sustainable livestock transformation. The second is promoting the adoption of tailored context-specific good practices across different livestock systems. The third one is promoting policies and responsible investment to ensure impact at scale. The fourth pillar is accelerating sustainable transformation of livestock through greater cooperation, partnership, and innovation of all stakeholders. And finally, is taking an holistic approach that will consider the multiple sustainability dimension of livestock sector across the entire value chain. So in a nutshell, that's the Sustainable Livestock Transformation Framework that FAO has proposed.
So there's a lot there, and that's a big job. And there's 190 plus members of the United Nations. So just how hard is it to get that through and get agreement with all the different? I imagine that's a long process. Do you want to just share some of the experience of what that's like to work on something like that and try and get agreement from so many different people?
Yeah, as for many processes and decision in FAO, they are always member-driven decisions. So during the second session of the Committee on Agriculture and the Subcommittee on Livestock, FAO members recommended FAO to develop a global plan of action on sustainable livestock transformation. And this global plan of action should be negotiated by the members to ensure that members will be able to implement at the scale. So let's say that in terms of the process at the FAO, it's kind of well outlined. And the decision from the subcommittee had been confirmed by the Committee on Agriculture itself and also by the FAO Council. That's why now we are mainly working on this approach on developing the global plan of action in the consultation with members, because this is a process driven by members.
And in terms of globally, the countries and the communities, where are the greatest needs in terms of improving the sustainability of the livestock system, and it's also ensuring that there's enough food to feed the populations? And what are some of the interventions that are the most needed to address those needs?
Yeah, this is a very important point. I think almost all countries around the world are part of this, because for the countries that are highly developed, of course, that would be mainly to continue improve the productivity on farm management, to reduce pollutions, enhance efficiency, and also ensure a high quality of animal product, but also continue to create value addition for animal products. But on the other hand, we see that there are countries that still need to adopt best practices at farm level, adopt technology, and also innovation to ensure that the sector is able to adapt to the changing climate, but also create values for farmers to ensure that farmers are not, especially smallholder farmers, don't continue to be affected by poverty and food insecurity. So this program will be broader enough to support all countries. But of course, we hope that FAO members will be willing to also make some national plan of actions to kind of put this program into sure that the program is addressing the issues that are relevant at the local level.
And there's 20% increase or forecast increase in demand for animal protein over the next decade or two. And where is that? What communities is that likely to address? And I guess in terms of climate change and sustainability, are those communities ones that are more or less likely to be greatly or more greatly impacted than other communities and countries?
Yeah, we see that mainly the increase in livestock production is always hand in hand with the growth of human population. So, as the FAO and OECD statistical outlook report showed, most of the growth will happen in developing countries, but in particular Africa and Asia. That means we should be well prepared to ensure that countries are well equipped with all they will need to sustain that production in the future. But of course, those regions are also affected by climate change. So it's important to promote adaptation to the effect of climate change, but also to think about how we produce differently. Produce more with less animals, for instance. That can be one way of coping with climate change. But we know that in some environments, especially in marginal areas where we cannot grow crop, the only way to sustain the communities there is really through livestock. So it's important that we invest in animal health, for example. We invest in the feed and fodder conservations to ensure that the animals that are being kept in those areas are not highly affected by long drought or extreme weather events. So that's how we see, but of course we need to be conscious that some of these assumptions have changed, in particular due to the effect of COVID-19, where we see many countries that are very conscious of the food sovereignty, so really growing the local value chains. So we see that some countries, for instance, in the Middle East, have started investing a lot in livestock production, especially in dairy production, to ensure that they rely less to the international markets because, of course, COVID-19 created some huge disruption of the supply chain, which created some vulnerabilities to some countries. So I see now that some of those trends are also changing because some countries are already responding to that event that happened that has been not well always captured in previous predictions.
Are there any examples you can share with us in terms of the countries that are reacting to the supply chain differentiations or problems with because of COVID-19, and also the ones um, that are suffering particularly from food insecurity and climate change? Or
Oh, yeah, actually, if you look at the Horn of Africa, you can see that that's the region that has been affected by drought for more than 4 or 5 years. If you look at Kenya, in the 2022, lost up to 2.5 million of animals due to the drought. So that's something that's really important we think about how we sustain the livestock in this changing climate because it's not something that we need to take as emergency. Now it's becoming as a way of conducting or managing a risk, so the climate risk. So we need really to integrate programs that support adaptation to ensure that those communities are less vulnerable. It's not only the Horn of Africa, but we see that also north part of Africa. We see that also in Asia, where climate change effects are quite very obvious, especially affecting the livestock sector. On the other hand, we see countries that have more access to resources, especially energy resources, investing growth in high tech, I would say, livestock farming, especially for the sector. So we see that mainly in the Middle East because of the access to energy, but also that those countries don't have high productive land available. So therefore, building more landless and confined livestock systems is a way to really ensure that the production is done at local level, but there are still challenges because some of the inputs required, especially feed, need to be imported overseas to ensure that animals are getting enough feed and in order to produce for the local consumption. So it's a way, let's say a very dynamic development that we are observing, and we hope that this development will also take into consideration the different sustainability pillars of livestock sectors, especially the environment, and also looking at the socioeconomic implications of those changes.
that's very interesting because when I was working in Abu Dhabi, I visited the Al Ain dairies, which were all 10, 20,000 odd head cow dairies, and all the feed was imported from Australia, North America, or Europe, or wherever else. And they were milking them 4 times a day, and they were some of the most productive dairies that I've ever seen, and in the middle of the desert in around Al Ain on the east of Abu Dhabi. So more of those kind of production facilities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I guess back to the COVID side of things, that highlights how human health and human diseases can be very, very linked to animal health and animal disease. And so the whole One Health um, concept. So where does that fit into the work you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, One Health approach actually is at the center of the sustainable livestock transformation, especially this is an overreaching umbrella that will facilitate coordination, complementarity, and linkages across different programs, but also across different stakeholders. And at FAO, One Health approach is promoted within agri-food systems and is also at the center of the transformation to ensure that we secure the health of the people, the animals, the plants, and also the environment. This involves different actors and that work across the agri-food systems, especially dealing with issues that not only relate to the health in general, disease and so on, but also antimicrobial resistance, food security, livelihood, and so on. And ensuring, of course, One Health is essential if we want to anticipate, prevent, and detect and control disease, especially zoonotic disease. And this is very important because we can also help to prevent, for example, the pandemic. Because as we have seen with the COVID, it's important that anticipating and not leaving any issues unturned. So to make sure that any challenges on global health security is well understood and also addressed on time. So I think that One Health will be a good element to be addressed under the sustainable livestock transformation.
It's the health side of it's a very interesting point because it's so intrinsically tied into sustainability. So sick animals, one, they don't grow, they don't produce much food. Two, they still have lots and lots of costs. They take up a disproportionate amount of time and labor and resources to try and treat them. They have a climate footprint, but then there's no food and there's no income from them. So addressing that health side of things, how do you see that as being such an important part of the whole sustainability program?
Yeah, what I can see is that animal health is really a priority for all countries. So this is important because not only preventions, because working really through different vaccination program, tackling eradicated one disease, so during the pest, which was very important disease. And now FAO and other partners are working also to eradicate the pest, the petit ruminant, which we call PPR disease, which is very important for the small ruminant. So ensuring better animal health, but also considering the implications and the relationship of animal health, human health, plant health, environmental health is important to ensure sustainability in the future. So yeah, that's through investing in animal health is really important for achieving that.
Uh, you've talked a bit about what's needed and all that sort of stuff, but where do you see innovation coming into this? How much is innovation something that you're currently focused on, and in what area, if so, what areas are you particularly interested in innovation, or what areas do you see the greatest needs?
Yeah, we cannot talk about transformation or change without talking about innovation. So innovation means also we need to think about how we do things differently, how we make sure that the livestock sector is sustainable, inclusive, and also is providing value and economic return to the producers, but also to different stakeholders that invest in that sector. So we have seen technological innovation that has driven mainly the development sector in developed countries, especially high and middle income countries. But we see also innovation in practices, how we conduct animals, how we better manage the on-farm, how we organize the value chains, so how farmers, for instance, use cooperatives and other instruments to ensure that the knowledge that is essential to the production, but also the access to the market are well organized. We see also innovation in communication. I think we were talking about this before this discussion. So how we communicate, we talk about these issues because the issue of sustainability is complex, and for livestock is even more complex because we are talking about a high heterogeneity of livestock systems that are different from a country to a country, and the right is different. So that's why it's important to promote innovations across all domains in this sector. And I see also that I was impressed to see that young people are also vetting in the sector, trying to really find solutions. For example, looking at how we reduce methane emissions. We see many young startups evolving in that area. We see young people also investing and really looking at how we improve the animal health by venturing in different type of vaccines and so on. So yeah, I see that we have not seen much of innovation. I think more is to come. And we need to embrace innovations, and of course, to ensure that the innovation is not creating a new divide. So to ensure that innovations also can reach the smallholders, but also those that are vulnerable, that are highly needed. Of course, as you know, we still have more than 811 million of people that are still not having access to enough food and enough proteins. So we need to make sure that that innovation is also providing enough animal proteins for those people that still suffer from hunger.
And are there, especially when you're looking at those innovations that are looking or trying to help those people that are those 800 plus million people who are still suffering from hunger, is there anything that you've seen over the last year or two that you find particularly exciting or interesting or has a lot of potential? And that's across, it could be any sort of innovation, whether it's a thing or a communications or a program or anything.
Yeah, I think there are many solutions, but of course that's difficult to pick. But I would say that each innovative solutions, especially when it's still at its proof of work, still need to be tested on the ground to better understand what would be the outcome. But I see that if I see for small scale farmers, access to the basic needs, really creating safety net for them in terms of accessing health insurance, accessing education, and so on. So all those means have helped farmers to really move from out of poverty because it creates additional revenue streams for them, for instance, and that can help them to move really to another stage. So, however, we see also that there are many tools that, if I can say, I don't want to promote one tool, but there are some digital tools that are being used, for example, to enhance the effectiveness of extension services. So that's very important because we know that the extension services has been always on one-on-one discussions or with the community and so on. But now with digital tools, can reach farmers on their mobile phone because most of the farmers now own devices. There are some artificial intelligence solutions that can also convert any messages into a local language so farmers can understand the information in their languages in something that they are very familiar with. So you see those solutions being really breakthrough, and I hope that they will be supported and also enhanced in the future to make sure that they can reach many farmers, especially smallholders in the rural areas.
And with sustainability, I guess there's a number of different pillars that people talk about. There's, increasingly more and more talk about methane and the importance of methane and how that impacts warming especially in the short term. There's also the desertification, which is obviously linked to warming in some ways, and there's biodiversity loss. So I guess it's a complex dynamic. Where do you see all those interacting and how do you prioritize between those different areas?
Yeah, so I think looking at the issue of climate change, for livestock, methane is important. Enteric methane, for instance, is about 85% of the total methane emissions from the livestock sector. It's really all coming from the rumen of the animals. So addressing this issue can help already the livestock sector to achieve direct goals of sustainability by really helping reducing the increase of the global temperature. And I see something that has changed, and now we see many countries, both developed and developing countries, interested in reducing methane. We see countries willing to move with developing a national methane reduction strategies, action plans to ensure that methane reduction strategy are well integrated into their actions. But it's important that we need to make sure that farmers are included in this process, because farmers are the one dealing with animals every day. They understand better the challenge ahead, and also we need to show that reducing methane has many co-benefits. Those co-benefits can relate to the increase in productivity. They can also relate to the new opportunity that carbon market, for example, can offer as an additional lever that bring more income to farmers. And this is very important. I'm not sure if we need to talk about carbon market or methane market, because we always think that maybe methane should be rewarded more than CO2. So in particular, that methane is a gas that is challenging, but it's a high global warming potential. And livestock is one of the sector that has the opportunity to reduce methane. So that's also include also how countries have access to different measurement technique. So to make sure that we will be robust data on how much emissions do we have. Because so far let's say that globally more modeling is used as opposed to direct measurement, but of course that's related to the cost that is still associated to the measurement techniques and also the knowledge of using those instruments. But I see that measurements can also increase robustness of information. It can also help to better monitor the emission reduction. It can build trust in carbon markets. But nevertheless, I think also better use of, for example, the intergovernmental panel on climate change guidelines can also be enough in a way of tracking. So the big issue is the data. So we need to have a very good data systems. That means that innovation is also needed there. But also, I think we need also to think about the regulatory framework, because sometimes data is not accessible because of the regulatory framework that prevents the data to be directly shared at high level without any process and analysis at the ground level. So there are many issues that we still need to deal with, but I see there is an opportunity, there is an interest, and we need to keep at this momentum that the Global Methane Pledge has created in many countries to make sure that we are providing them with solutions, not really frameworks that won't be used, to make sure that we are really developing a framework, strategy, plan of actions that can be implemented. And we need to ensure the buy-in of farmers to make sure that farmers don't see this as in a negative way. I think we can really do a good messaging about this and to make sure that farmers are really happy to join this move on improving profitability, but also reducing greenhouse gas emissions, in particular methane.
You get to travel to many different countries and speak with thousands or hundreds and hundreds of people. How do you see attitudes or enthusiasm around methane changing? Is that something that is becoming a bigger issue, or is there or is it not?
Yeah, I'm really happy that this is changing because I remember a couple of years ago, in discussion talking about livestock and climate change was always seen negatively by livestock stakeholders. In particular, that first is the way not to believe the facts. Second, it's also understanding that's the only way we can reduce methane is cutting the animal numbers. So it took quite a lot of time to show that actually that feeling was mainly based to the simplistic methodological approach that was used, especially the basic use of emission factors that are called Tier 1 in the IPCC language. So, but now, let's say countries are encouraged to use a high-level methodology on the second levels, the Tier 2, where actually methane is a reflection of what animals are eating and is a reflection of the management of the farm. So that's very important. So then we can show easily that by improving the digestibility of a feed, we can reduce emissions. Why? Because methane is a waste of non-digestive energy. So now I think the conversation has changed because most of our stakeholders, including policymakers, now understand much more better, let's say, the process and understand better how the different action. Actually, we have many countries that have been doing a lot in terms of feed improvement, using a different type of additives, herd management, reducing animal numbers. But those efforts has not been always translated into the assessment to show the progress that those countries have achieved. Because they have been always using the simplistic approach in terms of assessing. So now I think countries are getting the opportunity to reflect also the effort done at country level. And I think this is a very good development. And I hope that we will see many countries coming forward. And this year, for instance, is a good year because all countries are revising their nationally determined contributions to the Paris Agreement, and this opportunity to call for all countries to consider including the reduction of methane from livestock sector, especially enteric methane from ruminant, as a measure, and also to define a target. Maybe if there is not much evidence to better define the target, at least adding the measure into the NDC always helps to attract climate finance in the area. This is very important because livestock so far is receiving less than 5% of the total climate finance directed to agri-food systems. So it's a sector that is accused of emitting more greenhouse gas emissions, and is a sector that is less supported in a way of addressing the issue. So I think we need to continue raise the awareness, but also show that they are livestock is part of the solutions, and this is something that we are confident about that, and we see that of course countries are really changing their perception to the issue. So yeah, which is a good news.
It's it's quite considering how much press and how many stories are written about the impacts of whether it's real information or whether it's slightly exaggerated about the impacts of livestock on the environment and the opportunities there, and how only 5% of the agricultural climate finance is going towards the sector. There's a huge imbalance there that if people normally when people find a problem, they think, okay, what resources can we throw at that problem to try and address it? Why do you think there's such a big discrepancy in this?
Yeah, I think they have been kind of overreaction to the they said to the press about the livestock implication or the contribution of livestock to greenhouse gas emissions and also to the environmental pollution, biodiversity loss, and so on. So I think the reaction from especially financial institutions have been to stop funding the livestock. But we see that livestock is a very resilient sector. Even if it's not funded, it is a sector that will continue to be resilient, that will continue to grow. And I think then in that situation, the best way is really to help the sector improve and also achieve sustainability. So I have seen that this is changing, although it took a couple of years to reflect the situation. But we see that there is some good interest from different environmental fund, for example, being interested in the livestock sector. And methane has been one of the convincing arguments because even reducing 30% of methane from livestock sector is already eliminating almost 1 gigaton of greenhouse gas already, and which has a very huge positive impact in terms of reducing the global warming. So I see this as an opportunity, and I will continue to call for the financial institutions, private banks, and also other funds to really be interested in the sustainability, but of course make sure that the businesses they invest in are really following the right path of sustainability, because the knowledge is out there, the information is out there, so to make sure that they are the kind of tools to track the progress made and achieved across those investments.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you again. And before we go, is there anything you'd like to add that we haven't already discussed?
Yeah, I just want to say that this month UNFAO published the Sustainable Nitrogen Management and Agri-Food System reports, which is a report outlining actually the key actions countries, stakeholders across agri-food system must take to enhance the nitrogen use efficiency, reduce nitrogen pollutions, because we are talking about methane today, but nitrous oxide is a high potent greenhouse gas. That's also should not be forgotten. And we see that also pollution, especially air pollution, emerging from nitrogen use, it also has high impact on human health through different type of respiratory and cardiovascular disease. And we see also a huge issue of pollutions that are associated. Especially we see this mainly in the area with high concentration of livestock. So the report is not only addressing livestock, it's also addressing crop production and looking at the different elements, circular bioeconomy as an approach to find solutions. And we have provided a couple of case studies, examples of systems that are really working well, that can be served as examples on how to improve sustainability of nitrogen management and also other issues like methane we just spoke about.
So that's nitrogen across the air pollution side of things, be that nitrous oxide, which is the greenhouse gas, or nitrogen dioxide, which is obviously toxic as a pollutant to human and animal health, as well as, synthetic
Ammonia.
nitrogen further and all those different forms of it. And is circularity, or getting the nitrogen from one part of the system, like using livestock or other forms of organic nitrogen and getting that back into the crops, is that part of the study?
Yes. So actually, is the only way we can reduce the impact of nitrogen pollution is enhancing circularity. So circularity across agri-food systems, especially that we are talking about how do we deal with food waste and losses from the systems. We still have a huge amount of food loss that end up in landfill. So that's already a huge amount of nitrogen and also energy, greenhouse gas emissions produced the upstreams that are quite completely wasted. So we have provided a very interesting narrative about that, and also some solutions that different stakeholders can adopt. I hope that this in the future, nitrogen should also be seen as one important issue we need to deal with if we want to achieve the environmental sustainability.
Thank you very much. I might have to have you back on, or one of your colleagues back on, to talk about nitrogen in the not too distant future, because it's a very, very big area. But thank you very much for joining me today.
All right. Thank you so much, Ash.
Thank you for listening to the Ash Cloud. Please subscribe to Ash Cloud if you've enjoyed this podcast, where I will continue to discuss food sustainability with guests who bring a deep understanding of the environmental, political and cultural challenges facing our society and creative ideas on how to address them.